A Georgian parliamentary committee has started proceedings to override a presidential veto of a controversial foreign agents law that could restrict media freedom. The law on foreign influence, introduced by the ruling Georgian Dream party, has triggered mass demonstrations in Tbilisi. Protesters fear the law could stifle free speech and block the country's efforts to join the European Union. Our correspondent Maria Katamadze is in Tbilisi for us. Maria, what can we expect today?
Now, we expect that the parliament and the ruling party, Georgian Dream, that has the majority in the parliament, is going to adopt the bill in the final reading after overriding the veto, at least if nothing extraordinary happens in the meantime. Now, the government says that it is aiming at transparency, but critics here, they say that this is a law, this is the tool that the government is going to use to oppress the civil society in Georgia, to steer them away from European values and from European integration. That's why people are worried here. But still, the parliament seems to be pushing this bill. And now I would suggest we have a look at the interview with an MP from the ruling Georgian party and how she's explaining why she's backing the bill. I'm here with an MP from the ruling Georgian Dream party, Maria Bochorishvili. Ms. Bochorishvili, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you for your interest.
Please explain to us why you support this bill, despite the huge opposition in Georgia.
Maybe not that many people know that we have more than 25,000 organizations registered in Georgia that are considering themselves as civil society. And most of them are funded from foreign actors, and these funds are coming to Georgia from outside of Georgia. And recently we see that in some cases there is a very fine line in some cases there is no line between non-governmental organizations and political parties. And once this is already, then funding already goes to political parties. That, of course, is a problem.
Even though the bill hasn't come into force yet, we have seen the civil society members, journalists, independent journalists, they've been attacked for simply opposing the bill. Their houses were vandalized. The flyers are all over the city saying that they're traitors of the country, inciting some violence in the society. Can you see that?
Unfortunately, process itself emerged in a way that the actions against this legislation was quite aggressive from the very beginning. If you followed the situation, the law was labeled as Russian law that caused the protest in society. There is no justification for violence, of course, but if we see how also what kind of pressure was put on ruling party members, if we are talking about naming and calling them traitors, this is absolutely not normal. That peaceful protest that was not that peaceful with some Molotov cocktails or attacks on parliament building.
Well, the protests were indeed very, very peaceful. We've been following it from the start, and we cannot say that we have seen a case of Molotov cocktail being thrown at the police. So it's undocumented. You said securing European future. The commitment to the European Union is enshrined in the Georgian constitution. A majority of Georgians, they support Euro-Atlantic path for their country. Brussels has warned that passing this bill would endanger that path. So why you are still pushing ahead this bill?
Nobody wants here to question that path, and nobody wants here to threaten that, or make this process questionable. If something goes against European norms, rather than having just political statements about that, would be good to indicate what exactly is in transparency against European rules, and why Georgian society has no right to have same tools in their hands to protect democracy if we are talking about transparency of foreign influence in European society as one of the tools to safeguard democracy. Somehow it appeared that Georgian law to fix or to address the same problem that Europeans are also discussing and talking became Russian. That's the problem.
Such laws are implemented in the Western societies to fight with authoritarianism, to fight with unfriendly countries, to fight with their influence, authoritarian influence. You as a democracy, you are implementing the law to fight your partners in the West.
Well, first of all, we don't see that is as fighting tool, first of all, against somebody. This is not for that. It is kind of preventive measure for Georgia, as I mentioned. And when we talk about, for example, what you are saying, as usual, they are fighting against something. Just take recent example when a report was produced by French Senate and considering in this very report referring to some partner countries as well, because, it's not surprising that sometimes even partners, even friends, may have different interests. This law tries to ensure transparency of foreign funding without any definition of countries or division of countries around us.
This is not me claiming that you are fighting with the West. That is your party's founder, Ivanishvili. He made a speech where he labeled the West as the enemy. He said that West is interfering in Georgian affairs. It was not a friendly statement, was it?
Well, we have heard so many misinterpretations or interpretations of Ivanishvili's speech, but we have to be more attentive while analyzing when we are calling about, that somebody is calling enemy West. No, Georgia wants to be part of the European Union, and that is clear. And we see quite big challenges to our security. Georgia is a country which has 2 occupied regions by Russia. And this is not virtual threat to Georgia. That is very clear. We have foreign military presence on our territory without our consent. We have to be very careful who wants what from Georgia and what are the interests of anybody towards our country. Because for us, it is existential topic to keep security and keep stability in Georgia and not to create additional threats to our security. Georgia is not NATO member and Georgia is not EU member for today.
Your politicians, they engage in anti-Western rhetoric, claiming that the West wants to drag Georgia into war in Ukraine. That's what your de facto leader of the country said, Ivanishvili. That's what he said at the rally.
Not really.
And at the same time, your prime minister says that still Georgia wants to be part of the EU. So how do you think the West and your own people perceive seemingly opposing statements like this?
We are asked, for example, to send government plane to Ukraine with people, fighters, with government plane. To impose sanctions on Russia while we are not members of the European Union and we are not members of NATO, while Georgia cannot influence on Russia anyhow, but imposing sanctions can increase tremendously, or nobody knows, nobody can guarantee what can happen to Georgia. And of course, we have legitimate right to ask questions why all this is coming to this direction. Such misinterpretation of the statements that as if we blame European Union, this is not correct. But we do have concerns that are related to certain actors and certain statements.
This is exactly the quote from the speech
that
of the founder of the ruling party, Ivanishvili, who said that the global mysterious organization, the global war party,
is it European Union?
that has influence on EU and NATO, is trying to drag Georgia into war and uses Ukraine and Georgia as a cannon fodder. This was his quote. Tell me,
that's what exactly I'm explaining. So why you are putting equal sign between Global War Party, as it was mentioned, and European Union? We don't think so. We don't consider like that. But we do see certain actors, we do see certain actions that create or is directed to create additional security threats to Georgia. And that what gives us ground to think that there are certain forces that would have that intention to destabilize Georgia or to have additional place where Russia would be fighting, which is very clear and easiest to do it in Georgia.
Let's talk about Global War Party, a mysterious organization that is raising many questions in Georgia and abroad. What is it, Global War Party?
We have absolutely legitimate ground to have this thinking that there are people or forces that would deteriorate situation in Georgia and that would love to see Georgia to be used as an instrument.
Your colleague from the Georgian Dream party again, MP, who also voted for the bill, she said that behind the Global War Party is Freemasons.
Well,
do you agree
I
with
explained
that?
my opinion about that already, and I don't think that we need to enter in more explanations of it, who or what are the names or surnames or organizations, whatever.
Critics fear that this law will bring Georgia closer to Russia, a country that invaded Georgia in 2008 and occupied parts of its territory. The Russian troops are still on the ground. Your party says it wants a pragmatic approach to Russia. Are you trying to appease Kremlin?
How? We do hear that, but we do hear that there is such a, claims or blaming Georgian Dream or this government that we do something in favor of Russia. And when we ask to indicate concrete things, what exactly? This is the government that, we can compare what this government has done, what previous government has done, and what was more in favor of Russia. And this government has done nothing in favor of Russia.
Brussels tells you that it's going to close the doors for Georgia. Do you take these statements from the Western officials seriously, or you simply don't care?
No, we do care, and we do take that seriously, and we do take Georgia-EU relationship very seriously. And again, among partners, there should be more dialogue and more understanding, and that's what we expect from our partners and best friends as well, to understand what is the challenge and what we are trying to address with this legislation.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the interview.
Okay. Thank you.
Maria, what will be the consequences if this law comes into effect?
Well, the European Union's Foreign Affairs Chief, Josep Borrell, said that the EU is preparing already the response if the bill is adopted in the Georgian parliament. The US has already introduced the travel ban for the Georgian Dream officials for, quote-unquote, undermining the democracy in Georgia. So the sanctions are looming over Georgia, and nothing seems to be ruled out at this moment. There are also talks in Brussels that Georgia could actually lose the candidate status, the status, very long-awaited status that many Georgians have been fighting for decades. Now, it seems like the relationship between West and Georgia is at the lowest point, and that's why people are so angry. They say that their government is letting them down, that the government is not leading them to Europe, the place where they want to be.
Maria Katamadze is there reporting from Tbilisi. Thank you, Maria.